It's April 1st, 2018. You're listening to Fancy Ramen. I'm Neil.
And I'm Scott.
Happy Easter. Wait, April Fools. It's not Easter. Wait, April
Wait,
Fools.
April Fools
It
again. It is
is.
Easter. And
Oh,
April Fools.
first off, a get well soon to Cookie, who is sick with food poisoning, even though he won't listen to this, so that goes wasted.
No, get well now, Cookie.
That's a bit of a demand. I mean, don't you feel bad for expecting so much out of him?
Less of a condolence and more of a demand, yes. No, I don't. I know that he can work miracles, and so I have faith and confidence in him. But yeah, sadly he won't be joining us for today's recording. As far as we can confirm, he has food poisoning.
And by
Or
food
it's
poisoning,
another prank.
it could be an April Fool's, and he could be in the room with me right now. No, he's not.
Look out, he's behind you. Oh, okay.
Uh, it could be brown bag flu for all we know. Have you heard that term before?
Doesn't that refer to like being really hungover?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Um I it's both funny, but it also seems like it insinuates a pretty like kind of dark perspective.
Also, when we were playing some online games yesterday, he had received the invite and said he was partying yesterday, which I'm assuming was partying. In which case, we never heard from him again until this morning, saying that he would not make it because he was sick.
Uh-oh, that story lines up, unfortunately. Looks like we got hoodwinked.
I've never gone to a party of cookies before, and I feel
Neither
bad.
have I.
I feel bad for that reason, but I'm just not really a big drinker or party goer at this point. So I don't know if I will, but I really wonder how wild they get.
I used to enjoy a lot of house parties in college, but that was about the only time in my life that I did that. Didn't do it before then, and afterward haven't really had the inclination to do it anymore either. I'm like a small gathering kind of guy. I like to have 10 or less people, or maybe just a little bit more than 10 in a space, and I'm more than satisfied with that.
The type of thing where you can feel like you actually can connect with everyone at the party or most of the people.
Exactly. Yeah. I kind of assumed that, especially when I hosted parties like that or when I went to them, I kind of wanted it to be a situation in which I could interact with everybody at the party. That's much better than like, I don't know. It's weird to go to a party and then, you know, have someone else who goes to the party and you may never have an interaction the whole time. Like that's always just been odd to me. I get it. It makes total sense. Everybody lives independent lives, and even though you're in the same like physical space, sometimes that's not enough of a reason for you to have like overlapping experiences. But it's just interesting to me.
And for me, it's kind of this. I
Not being
dislike
invited to parties, and I know that's hard too.
No, I dislike having that whole expectation from people in general that you're supposed to go and mingle with others.
Neil's
Even
least favorite part about parties is talking to people, is what I'm getting out of this.
well, it's the expectation to always have to talk to people. And it's like sometimes I just don't necessarily want to meet new people
You just want to pet their dog.
or talk awkwardly to their dog.
I get that.
No, it's just like, okay, I went to this party because a person I know invited me, but I'm not interested in knowing that person's friends and stuff.
Yeah, I get that. What's the out of curiosity, what's the last memory you have of actually partying pretty hard, Neil?
Going to a music video release for a song that I had recorded and
Oh.
blacking out.
Oh, holy shit. Okay. I've never gotten to that point of drunkenness, but my probably my most recent, and recent is I guess I don't know if that necessarily counts for it anymore. I was probably late 21 or 22. I remember going to a house party and hanging out, having a bunch of fun, and then I stood up and went, "Whoa, I'm way too drunk," and had to just sit right back down. And on the car ride home, it was one of those like pull over, I need to immediately vomit in the field kind of situations.
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Oh yeah, this isn't for me." Like drinking is fun, but I actually can't handle the consequences afterward. So
I do feel the need to elaborate to that. It's not like I was just getting like shit-faced drunk for no reason. I mean,
wasn't
there
assuming
was
that, but I'm sure our viewers have a much more sinister picture of you in
yes.
their head.
There was obviously no reason, but it was just a matter of like not realizing because I don't drink often at all.
You have those weak alcohol processing genes.
No, I mean I think I have a tolerance under the right circumstances, but like I don't think I had anything to eat that day. This is when I was working like freelance, so I was always very tight on money, and it's
Empty
just
stomach will do it.
Yeah, I just happened to not have anything other than maybe oatmeal in the morning, and suddenly it's night, and it's like, oh, like whiskey sours apparently wreak havoc on you when you haven't had anything to eat. I generally like don't drink much these days at all. But I will say, just on the side, immediately after saying I don't drink much, I did pick up a new beer this past week called Steigl or something like that. And it's called a Radler. But it's basically like a grapefruit shandy, and the alcohol content is something like 3.4%. Pretty low.
That's known as a sessionable beer.
What is a sessionable beer?
Sessionable normally means that, I've had this Steigl stuff. Sorry, I just happened to look that up. Sessionable beer is going to be, now I need to Google a definition to make sure I don't screw this up. But sessional, wow. Okay, I'm losing it. Sorry. Sessionable, under the definition that I understand it as, is something that is normally a lower alcohol content and like pretty easy to, easy to drink a couple of them. So let's see.
Yeah, that sounds about right. When I was drinking it,
alcohol content is below 5%. Probably best below at 4%. Wouldn't unexpectedly get you drunk or anything like that.
Oh, so that's interesting because then wouldn't Guinness also be considered one? Because I think Guinness is at 4%.
Yeah, I guess so. It's I mean, like Bud Light is sessionable in a way, I guess. You know what I mean? Like you can have quite a few, and it's normally not super heavy. It's like it's something that you can drink more than one of, I guess.
I just looked up, is Guinness Draft the most sessionable session beer? And one reply said, 3 years living outside of Dublin, and I never met anyone under 50 who enjoyed more than one Guinness before switching to something else. The Guinness shits was the number one reason I was given. Comes out the way it goes in, mostly black liquid with a little white foamy head on top.
Oh, gross.
For reference, I have multiple pints of Guinness when I do like have a night out usually, since it's so low in content.
I remember you bringing
content.
Yeah, I remember you bringing Guinness on a couple occasions. I also remember you bringing Sapporo, which I love me those Asian style beers quite a bit.
Yeah, Kieran's
I'm a
also
big fan
super
of
good.
Sapporo. Kirin Ichiban, that's also really good. Asahi is okay in a pinch.
Oh, so that Steigl beer, Radler specifically, is pretty fantastic purely from the fact that it kind of reminds me of like a less sweet version of Fresca.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've had this. It's a good beer. I like it. It's very It's very fruity and like easy to drink. I may have actually even drank one of these that night that I was talking about having to have the like the little field detour.
I'm kind of bummed that Cookie had to sit this one out because I was planning on bringing the two remaining ones I had from the 4-pack I bought, so he could try one too. But I doubt they're gonna make it next week, so I might just have to pick up more. That aside, anything exciting happened this week for you?
The Easter brunch that I made with my family earlier today was pretty awesome, though a little unorthodox in some of the food items. Actually, there was just one food item that stuck out to me. I'm going to give you the list. I'm going to let you guess which one it was that I thought maybe didn't fit the rest. We had some caramel pecan rolls that we made last night that we baked. We had a sort of egg bake or egg casserole. We did biscuits and gravy. We made a like chopped fruit salad, and I'm trying to think, was there anything else that we did on top of that? There was bacon, and then we had spring rolls.
I remember you telling me last night actually about the spring rolls. So what
Right.
prompted you guys to make it?
The bacon? Yeah, I know. It's pretty unorthodox to have that with a brunch, but the spring rolls were for Sierra since she's a veggie eater and can't have any sort of meat. Spring rolls are a good kind of fun but high labor food to make for her. So we did that. And when I say spring rolls, it's pretty much the same recipe you'd encounter at like I guess any Vietnamese place, just not with like shrimp in it. Instead, it's cucumber and carrot and peppers, and then the vermicelli noodles and cilantro and little green onion in there with like a sweet chili sauce or soy sauce. But yeah, that was just when everybody was loading up their plates this morning. They were like, "Oh, you're not going to have any? You worked so hard to make those." And I was like, "Well, it doesn't really seem like a breakfast food to me, so I'll have to pass." I hope they're still here, or I hope there's still a couple around. I actually didn't eat any, but I was hoping to enjoy some later. But yeah, that's about it. I don't know. I haven't done much else. I'm looking forward to a 3-day weekend. I actually have tomorrow off, so
Oh, nice.
trying to figure out what I'm going to do with that. I thought about going out to visit Glacier National Park, but Sierra's got something to do in town, and so I didn't want to leave her behind for the whole day. So we'll do something together instead around town. What about you, Neil? What have you been up to?
Work and work and work.
Have you still been putting in like
I'm not
near
putting
80
in
hours?
the crazy hours I did the week before, which hopefully doesn't happen again for a little while at least. But I'm still putting in some extra work here and there. And because I've had a little extra free time, I've been spending that doing some editing. So I think the Overcooked episodes will finally get out, and you'll get to see what kind of shit fest it is playing Overcooked with those guys. Enough of the small talk, though. Have you been playing any video games this week?
Oh yeah, I put in probably another 4 or 5 hours into Ni no Kuni, and I just hit that point in which a lot of JRPGs and RPG like games branch out into offering a plethora of side quests to the point where you can get really sidetracked from the main storyline. And I don't want to say unfortunately necessarily, but side quests aren't necessarily my normal focus or forte. But in order to improve your town, because you also do this like kingdom building simulation that's pretty fun to establish and then further develop your kingdom over time. You need citizens, and to recruit citizens, you normally need to perform a side quest of some sort to get them. There are easy ways to get citizens. There's one character that you can interact with that you can essentially run like small errands for, and that's normally supplying like a set number of items, and then they give you tokens that you can later then spend on other on recruiting other characters to your kingdom. Otherwise, there are other more specialized characters that have a little bit more of a storyline, sometimes pretty in-depth, other times something very simple, normally with some sort of dialogue or interaction that makes you care about this character in the side quest. And then you perform it for them and convince them to join you in your kingdom. And it just feels really weird to, I guess, poach citizens from other kingdoms. Like happy citizens of one kingdom, I'm like, come to mine. It's better. And that's about all the sales pitch they need is, I do them one favor and then they're like, I'm going to uproot my whole life and move to Evermore, this kingdom that is literally just built with a lot of logs currently and in the middle of nowhere. So
hold up. Is there any sort of a reason that you do so, kind of like in Zelda when you're recruiting people for Terrytown?
Yeah, I mean, my reason as playing the ruler Evan is to recruit people to my kingdom so it's actually functioning. And their reason is their good old pioneer spirit. They're all like trying to either perfect their craft. So I get a lot of people who are like graduated apprentices from one thing or another that then I can put in charge of something in my kingdom. Or I just do them a favor and then they decide that I'm such a benevolent ruler that they'd like to live under my rule.
Okay, so they at least create some sort of justification, as shallow as it might be.
I mean, some of them are very shallow and other ones aren't. And there's actually there's one character that I will be recruiting in Gold Paw because they seem like they could be valuable, but only in a game sense. Like if I weren't metagaming or considering their value as, like a unit to be used in my kingdom building, I would never invite this person to my kingdom. I'd honestly probably have them banned from visiting because they're a no good busybody. So
That
I don't know.
line
It's
gets crossed.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's always interesting when a game mechanic justifies overlooking like a moral decision, I guess.
Yeah, this character, I don't feel like I really need to be vague, but I also don't feel like going into huge detail. This character is essentially trying to be a guard for the city of Gold Paw, but really they're just like an annoying nuisance that is a little overzealous about performing the duties of a guard, asking for like documentation when people enter the city, but the documentation doesn't exist, or spying on a couple because they must be spies if they're standing so close to one another. And then finally, like gathering intel about someone that they think is corrupt because their gut tells them so. And I'm just like, you would be a truly abysmal guard. But it looks like this quest wants me to make you the head of my security. So I guess I'll do that because it looks like you have some benefit or bonus and I could use your skills. But in actuality, if I were running any sort of kingdom, you would probably be one of the most problematic people to employ. So I don't know. The character writing in the game is really good. I mean, that's to be expected with a game like this. I already knew from the first couple minutes, like with the tutorial part of the game, that the character writing was probably going to be pretty good. It's like I said, sappy and cheesy at sometimes, but overall emotional and like touching when it needs to be, and humorous at other times. So your characters, even if they are annoying or a problem, at least are interesting. They're not like absolutely bland, so that's a plus, I guess, in my book.
Yeah, I don't know if they necessarily intend, or if like a lot of these games intend to make annoying characters or dislikable characters, and it's probably a case-to-case scenario, but I still enjoy having characters I dislike more than characters I have no opinion of or are bored of.
I would agree. To be able to elicit a reaction from the player, whether it's positive or negative, is better writing than not being able to elicit any sort of response.
Right. Absolutely.
And I don't know, maybe it's good that there's a balance between characters that you do and don't like. Like, if antagonists are the only characters you dislike, why are all of your other characters so likable or lacking in, I guess, diversity of impact or appeal? I think it's okay to have people I don't like in my town. I'm just not going to talk to them. I'm going to put them to work and reap the benefits of their labor.
If he lets you upgrade your sword to like another level, then even if he's an asshole,
he's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's really stuck out to me playing more Ni no Kuni 2. Maybe since I've played last, I've gotten to play these challenging monster fights, which are pretty cool. I like that sometimes in JRPGs, it seems like if you don't reach the recommended level you're to perform a quest or a side quest, you pretty much like SOL, or at least that has been my experience in some JRPGs, is like it's more of a recommended minimum to even be able to do damage or have the right equipment to deal with some enemies. In this game, I find that I'm constantly trying to deal with, I guess, quests and other conflicts that are above my level on their recommended settings, and coming out just fine as long as I make sure I keep my wits about me in whatever the challenge is. I don't know of any other games that I've played that necessarily have like just challenge monsters or bosses kind of hidden around that are beefed up versions of the normal ones, but that also like when you defeat them always have like a reward behind them. It's kind of like having small elements of a bonus dungeon scattered across the overworld, which is a nice touch as well.
Yeah.
I can only think of the remastered original Final Fantasy game, like that bonus dungeon that you go through at the very end of the game is kind of in the same aspect where like you're encountering a bunch of enemies that you've already encountered before, but they're buffed to a much larger degree. So it's kind of like working with the same tactical approach, but at a much more extreme like risk reward.
How much more time do you think you need to put into it before you beat it?
Probably a lot. Evan's goal as leader of Evermore is to prevent war in whatever, I guess not continent, in the world of Ni no Kuni. And at first I thought he was going to do so by conquering every other kingdom and bringing them under one banner. But it looks like there's a slightly more diplomatic approach in which we're going to have a declaration of interdependence in which I get every kingdom to sign on to it. And so I've gotten the first of, I think, 5 cities total that I'll be recruiting. I'll have to double check to make sure that that's right. But I either have 4 more to recruit or 3 more to recruit, and then probably whatever the end game is after that. But that narrative alone took probably 10 hours of time total. So I would imagine it's going to be about the same for the following kingdoms as well.
I will probably pick it up this week.
You're going to sink a lot of time into it. Hopefully this doesn't become the Ni no Kuni cast for the next couple weeks, because
like it did the Persona 5 cast.
Oh yeah, I know, but I mean, who is complaining, really? That was great. No, I think you absolutely should pick it up, and it's totally worth checking out. And I'm kind of worried that it's a really good game, and it's going to take a long time, and so it's going to be something that I talk about a lot, or I'm going to have to like sprinkle playtime with other games in between, so I have something fresh to talk about on the podcast.
I mean, you shouldn't have let the podcast dictate what it is you play.
Oh, but I do. That's why Darkest Dungeon is incomplete and a bunch of other games.
As a very short side note, I just started playing Subnautica today with Tiffany watching, and I am fucking terrified of the ocean.
Yeah, man, pufferfish are scary. Oh, that's not what you were talking about?
Well, yes, that too,
Okay.
but holy fuck.
Deep water freaks me out. Like, I really respect and appreciate I feel obligated as a biologist, or I shouldn't even say biologist, someone with a heavy background in the biological sciences, to appreciate like all sorts of organisms and forms of life and ecosystems and things like that. Like, I personally hate mushrooms and really will never eat them if I can help it. But I respect how like interesting or complex that they are. Like, I respect the scientific understanding of them. And same thing for the ocean, but like, man, when I go to the beach, if I can't be within like a really quick sprint of like a really quick what is that? A freestyle paddle like to shore?
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be out in the water at all. Like, deep water freaks me out. You ever had seaweed brush your leg?
I don't think I've ever had seaweed brush my leg, but I've had like
Horrifying.
clumps
It's
of
terrible.
algae and weird plankton touch my leg when I'm walking in lakes, and that's already
Yeah.
kind of creepy.
I mean, Jesus walked on water, sure, but I can jump out of it if I'm touched by something under the water. I can I can remove my whole body from the surface of the water. It just freaks me out. So I'm interested to hear how you managed to play that game, because I think I'd honestly, even if it's like super mild, I'm pretty sure I'd have some night terrors about playing a game exploring the depths of the ocean or sea.
It's even got a VR mode, and I need to see if it is supported by Oculus and Vive. But I imagine I would be shitting my pants. Just because like I feel hypersensitive to sounds already to begin with. And the fact that you're underwater, I'm under the mindset that like they've done a good job of this, but I don't spend a whole lot of time submerged. But as a result, like sounds are amplified and so forth. So you can be out of water and not hear anything, and then go into the water and suddenly hear something right behind you. And
Ooh.
what doesn't help is because you're on an alien world, granted they do use like realistic sounds like whale sounds and other aquatic life or organic sounds. There is like a synthetic soundtrack that comes in and out. And sometimes it's hard for me to differentiate whether or not like this static noise is part of a track or part of something coming to kill me.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm also
just-
just a giant baby.
No, I totally understand. I remember playing The Long Dark, and every once in a while, like, I'd get really into the zone, normally on my like longer survival playthroughs. So when I was reaching like close to 100 days, I would be super, super attentive to any sounds, because it's like, I got to make it to 100 days. And if a wolf sneaks up on me, it's game over. Like,
Yeah.
it's bad news. So I get that. You get in this like hypersensitive mindset or headspace, and then what were once innocuous sounds or things that you ignored all of a sudden become like life or death determinations, and you're not even sure if they need to be. Interesting. I'm excited to hear more about it as you have a little bit more experience with Subnautica.
I'm not looking forward to it.
A series of videos, or not a series of videos, a YouTuber that I really like to watch for games, the Killian Experience. He does a Subnautica video that's pretty funny and worth giving a peek at.
Maybe so I'll check that out after I finish the game,
I'll
so to
link
speak.
it. Oh, yeah. I don't know if he actually spoils any story mode stuff.
I just figure that like I'm trying not to look at what exists in that game, so to speak.
That's fair. That's true. Okay.
So
how do you feel about Lovecraftian horrors?
I've
I've said too much. Okay.
Oh, you're talking about like the monsters. I thought you were
Yeah.
going to drop some crazy news like Bloodborne 2, baby.
Oh my gosh. I will do a much better job like dropping that bombshell on you if I have the honor to do so.
Uh,
So far no news about Bloodborne 2, but Fallout 5 apparently
yeah,
straight
GDC
from
happened this
Neil.
past week, going seamlessly into news, and with it came a plethora of game announcements and trailers. Did you have any games that caught your eye?
For GDC,
Yes.
let me look at the list here real quick. I mean, Metal Goose Solid, I'm going to pick that game up and buy it. I'm already fully aware that I'm going to do that. Otherwise, what else do we got? We got, I don't know how to pronounce it, Noita.
I'm assuming Noita, and so for our listeners, I jotted down a few game titles that seemed interesting to me. Noita in particular is this roguelite, excuse me, that seems to have fully interactive environments. So every pixel, if you will, is the phrase they're using is every pixel is physically simulated.
Oh yeah. It gives me sort of like a very a very different twist to what a game like Terraria could end up being like if you focus less on the building and more on the destruction of environment.
Which like that's exactly I think what doesn't turn me off from Terraria and games similar to that like Starbound. Because that's not the right word, but where I get lost within the game is the building and the like at times the lack of a narrative direction or a purpose or goal. And like having more focus on combat and like a magic system, that alone, and then obviously I have like some sort of preference towards pixel, like high quality pixel artwork.
Oh
So
yeah.
those things all
Pixel
kind of
artwork
combine together.
is if done right, I think such a great alternative to having like really high quality 3D graphics
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
really anything else. Like pixel art's wild. It's not something that I think is easy to do either, which is kind of surprising when you think about it. It's a digital rebirth of pointillism, which is really cool.
This particular game kind of reminds me of Risk of Rain too. Not
Oh,
the system,
totally with
but
the art style.
yeah. Uh,
Yeah, it's much more arcane in focus than Risk of Rain, but you definitely get the same kind of vibe. Also, with just I don't know how this spell kit of your like wizard necessarily works, but like with a very hectic environment like that, that is reminiscent of Risk of Rain, if only in the sense that you're going to be very cognizant of where your player representation or player character is at all times, because they could get just overwhelmed by enemies on screen at pretty much any moment.
the next game that drew my attention was called Minute,
Oh yeah,
MINIT.
I did see something about this. I am interested. That it's got like the very classic Game Boy Legend of Zelda vibes, like Link's Awakening. Um, I'm interested in playing it for sure. I really like the idea that you're almost playing a super shortened version of oh man, I'm trying to think of the movie. It reminds me of Memento, things like this, where you're just like working with the last memory that you have available or information. You now essentially are working within this like very small constraint system and trying every permutation or possibility, just to kind of like maximize what you're capable of within the world.
Because the catch is,
You die every minute.
Yep.
Or you die every 60 seconds essentially, and then once you die, your character resurrects, and actually your character resurrects from, it seems like, a set location. I don't know if your character resurrects like in the center of the map, and then you have 60 seconds to travel to one end of the map or another, but it's got to be either that you only have one place where you spawn, or you set places where you spawn, and then you're able to work within that kind of range within that minute of time.
And there's some sort of like retention over what you do, because from clips I've seen, you this character is spawning back with their sword, and the sword is not an item you start with. So
yeah,
I'm
it also
genuinely
looks
curious.
It looks like, for instance, the character in the teaser video like waters a plant at one point in time. I think it may be that your actions during your life carry over into the next life. So you're not playing the same frame in time.
The next game I had on the list, of course, was the Untitled Goose Game. We've brought that up. Is Zenki Zero. And quite honestly, I think this one's getting a free pass because it's made by the developers of Danganronpa.
It looks like Danganronpa.
But it's essentially a survival game, but more anime, and also set to be an RPG as opposed to like a typical, or I should say it's survival themes, but it apparently takes place in the ruins of Earth, where we have 8 characters, and that you switch control of, and each chapter of the game focuses on a different character. What else comes to mind of it? Like it also uses the same weird combination of sprite, pixel art with 3-dimensional landscapes and flat images all together, just like
animated
the
character
Danganronpa
models. Last one you have down here is Mosaic. I know nothing about it.
I think that covers it for episode 61 of Fancy Ramen. And welcome back to Fancy Ramen, episode 61, part 2. I'm Neil.
I am the man who needs no introductions, the black guy that's in your party, Cuki.
And I'm Scott.
The black guy in my party, like in my RPG party, or at my party, like my drinking party?
A little of both. I'm not
Whenever
sure
you need him, he's there for you.
Beautiful. Do you also
today's drink of choice is a margarita by hands.
Oh, I was going to bring over some Steigl Radler last weekend.
Oh, yeah, you should have came. It was a good time.
You got sick, though?
Not from the party. It was from a previous engagement.
Oh, right. But I'm saying I would have come over to record, but you got sick.
Oh, you're talking about not to the party, to the actual, like, recording.
Yeah.
No, I was down.
I don't know. I've heard about a lot of cases of food poisoning recently, so makes me
not want to eat outside.
Yeah, kind of. Cookie, since you've been out for a couple of weeks, what have you been up to, and what games have you been playing? Well,
for those who know me, I have life. So last weekend, I was not actually, unfortunately, on the podcast because I caught food poisoning hence why we're talking about people washing their hands.
Yet you still made the episode, since this is 61, part 2.
Yay! Weird time loops and paradoxes. But
oh man, that's going to be so relevant for later.
Ooh, I'm kind of curious.
Yeah.
But this week, after catching food poisoning, actually after partying very hard on Easter Eve, I guess, on that Saturday before Easter, catching food poisoning and being down and out, I decided to. I'm not sure if I actually said this before, but I bit the bullet, and bought a subscription to VRV recently. For anyone who's got a subscription to either Funimation and our Crunchyroll, stop it. Stop it now. Get VRV.
VRV gives you access to both of those and more.
The premium version of both of those and like 17 other random channels. So like Rooster Teeth, Mondo, which I've been like having lots of good luck with on like the shows that they've got, and just a bunch of random shit. Oh gosh, words. I can't even think of like all the channels that are on VRV.
What's the cost differential between, let's say, your Crunchyroll subscription and this VRV?
So
selection?
Crunchyroll was $7.99. VRV is $10.99.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good if you're getting
It pays for
Mondo,
itself.
Crunchyroll, Funimation, Geek and Sundry,
Cartoon Hangover, Curiosity Stream,
Rooster Teeth. You
Mubai.
said Nerdist, Drama Fever. There's a lot of stuff available through this.
And like my anime consumption over the week, anime and cartoon consumption over the week have just like skyrocketed.
Yeah, you
on-
won't stop talking about Citrus.
Should I watch Citrus? Is it any good?
I don't know. I was looking at the VRV website. That's vrv.co. You can send your checks to Fancy Ramen. And notice Citrus was the first thing, and it's what looks like a Yuri mature anime.
We do need to set up a Patreon so people can actually send their checks to Fancy Ramen.
I feel like
that'd be
setting up
nice.
a Patreon would be depressing.
Well, this is the worst time for us to do it too, with our doubling up on episodes and missing release times.
Yep, exactly. So we'll find some regularity again.
Yeah, this is the darkest timeline right now for the Fancy Ramen podcast.
The timeline where Trump is a president. That is the timeline that we're
Wait,
talking about.
I
That
find
wasn't a
it's-
fever dream? I
No.
thought I just got the food poisoning and got sick, and that was just a fever dream.
No. In the realm of anime, really quickly, I just started watching one called Megalobox. I don't know if either of you guys saw anything about it. It's about a like mech-based boxing tournament
I
where
was about to say, how is that? That's on my VRV to watch list.
I'm digging it. I haven't even finished the first episode yet, but I kind of like it. It's the usual like scrappy punk from the wrong side of the tracks with his unorthodox boxing style is going to try and make a name for himself against a elitist like society that's establishing the world's greatest boxing tournament.
Nice.
Yeah, it's still getting into the like super into the very initial character building and kind of setting. Honestly, it's only 18 minutes in on my end, so I still have to finish the episode before I even know exactly what direction it's ultimately going to take.
Oh,
But
speaking of an
I've
anime,
enjoyed it so far. Yeah.
speaking of anime, about knowing what direction it's ultimately going to take, fucking Persona 5, the animation, came out last night.
Well, the first episode, right?
The first episode, yes.
How is it?
I really like it. They've recycled all the music, which is perfect because fuck yeah. And the first episode ends, slight spoiler, I guess, with your main character taking off his mask.
Taking off his mask within the sense of calling out his persona, or
Yes, for the first time. So when you're locked in the jail,
okay.
I was trying to figure out where it was going to end because I was like, oh, sweet, they made it into what's his name castle. Where is it ending? Then it was a little bit of time, but like the free time section. So you know how it's got that one song that that one song that plays whenever you're just like randomly walking around. They'll like show flashes of like screenshots of So like when he first gets to town, they'll show flashes of screenshots of him like talking to random bystanders to find Mr. Sakura's house. Then going to the coffee shop, but on like these background pictures, you're seeing like characters who are going to be showing up random in later parts of the anime, and it's kind of amazeballs.
Interesting.
All in all, I say give it a watch.
Yeah,
But
that's on my list.
what I have been up to pretty much just been working anime, and my car decided to show me all of the oil that was inside of it on Friday. So Saturday, me and Lizzie decided to go figure out if it was going to be feasible for me to get a new car and/or repair my current car. Turns out repair costs from two different places would be about 3 times as much as what my car is actually worth.
So how long have you had your car?
I've had it for about 6 years. It's at 157,000 miles. Taken it across country a few different times. Bought it used from my in-laws.
Did you? Oh, okay. Never mind. That answered my question.
Yeah. So yeah, it was it's an '04, and it's been taught 6 different people how to drive clutch. So it's had a good lifetime. That's kind of what I've been up to, non-gaming related at least. If we want to go into gaming, I guess we can.
Not
slight.
Yeah, not quite yet. That's since I see Scott's been doing a few things outside of the world of gaming.
I've had a busy and exciting week. But mostly all I wrote down about was watching movies.
Ooh, what movies did you watch?
I watched last night I went and saw Ghost in the Shell, the 1995 original movie, and I went and saw Game Night about a week earlier, which if you guys like, I haven't been out to the movies too recently otherwise. And I finally got to finish Ghost in the Shell. Last time I tried to watch this was on a snow day a couple years ago, and I slept through the whole movie. Like, I woke up near the end, and I kind of looked around and got my bearings, and then I was like, oh, I can't keep up, so I fell back asleep. So it was nice to watch it again. And it's also a lot more accessible and less confusing. I think, honestly, after you've watched the maybe the first season of the anime, it gives you, I don't know, some like rudimentary knowledge about the universe that lets you watch the film and be a little less confused about what's going on and focus more on like the I guess philosophical propositions that they make throughout the film.
See, I saw your note here, and I thought you watched the new Ghost in Shell, and I was kind of curious because I haven't heard anything about it.
Oh no, I'm not. I forgot to put 1995 on there. There you go.
Whoa, perfect.
Yeah, now you know. So now if you ask, you're just way behind. But I enjoyed that, and I also thought about how the animators, when they were actually drawing and animating that film in 1995, must have felt, because I bet they were just like blowing their minds over how well they could animate water, because there's so much water in that film. And the first thing I thought of is like, they probably thought this was the coolest shit they had ever done. Just with how often they use it. And they have like what I think are panning shots of of like some slums in the metropolis or within the city that they didn't necessarily need, that were just like gratuitous because they wanted to show off some more of their like artistic ability with this and how like modern and pretty it probably looked at the time. But all in all, good movie. I enjoy the animes more, and there's several reasons for that. I think partially it's because the animes have a season has a lot more content than a single standalone movie, but I also like the dubbed voice actress for the Major better, and there's obviously more characters all around. It has advantages being more long form as a TV show, I guess. But Game Night, you guys, Cookie, I feel like you and Lizzie should go see this. It was a really good comedy that I saw. It's got Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams, and essentially they host a game night every Friday night, or I guess every weekend, and they have their group of friends over for the game night, and Jason Bateman's older brother, who he has like a complex about, he thinks better than him in every way, invites them over for a like super intense game night where he tries to show up any game night they've ever had before, and they're supposed to engage in like a murder mystery that gets staged by a like local company, and then it just kind of goes off the rails from there. And it's a very funny movie. I enjoyed it a lot. Sierra and I were like moving and wriggling in our seats during some scenes in the movie because we were just so engaged. Except one part was when they were like trying to extract a bullet from somebody's arm, and that was more like trying not to puke more than anything else. But very funny, good humor. It's from the creators of Horrible Bosses, which is also another film that I really liked comedy-wise, and so it's worth checking out if you're interested in a movie night. I think it's been out since February, so it'll probably be off the screen soon enough.
Sweet. Which means I'll probably be able to see it at the Dollar Theater.
Yeah, pretty soon.
Did you only watch it because Rachel McAdams is in it?
No, why would I only watch it because Rachel McAdams is in it?
I don't know.
Okay.
We all know that you actually really like Jason Bateman instead. It's fine.
I do actually really like Jason Bateman, but that doesn't mean
hilarious.
I don't like Rachel McAdams. I think they're both fun actors.
Have you seen the movie that he's in with
Michael Cera?
No, I'm sorry. I'm trying to think. He's a Vanilla Extract.
Extract.
Oh, well that does it. Yeah, have you seen Extract before, Scott?
No, I actually haven't even heard of it.
Oh, it's good.
It's real good. I wish I could sum it up in like one sentence. But he's like this middle-aged guy that is in talks of like selling his extract company or plant or either or, and he starts to become unsure, or he starts to suspect that his wife would cheat on him. So he hires like this young like guy to clean his pool, but also hit on his wife. Meanwhile, he's also falling for Mia Kunis. Is that her name?
Mila Kunis, yeah. This
Mila.
looks like it's quite the cast. Jason Bateman, Mila Kunis, Kristen Wiig, Ben Affleck, J.K.
Kristen
Simmons.
Wiig's in this? I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck plays basically himself, which is
As he does in every movie?
a drunk, sleazy bartender.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So him in every movie.
yeah, more or less, except for the Job. No, that's not it. The movie he
Accountant?
directed and starred in, where he's a bank robber.
Oh.
The Town. Which that's a pretty good movie if you have not seen it. Yeah.
Sweet. I also saw Game Night and added my name to it because I thought you were talking about our game night that we had.
Right.
Yeah. We also had our I've hosted both parties D&D first game nights with the campaign I put together, and it's very entertaining, but I don't know if there's really much to say about it.
What character is Cookie?
Cookie can go ahead and describe his character for you.
My character is a cleric who is kind of moonlighting as a bard, who is very, very bi, and he's also a mama's boy.
how can you be very bi as opposed to only slightly bi? What's the difference between that?
So I will hardcore hit on the ladies by using my smooth and sensual voice. And then when I'm talking to guys, I'll also, I'll talk a little like this and go, sweetheart, honey, it's okay. So I'll go stereotypical gay and I'll go very, very lady killer.
You're willing to please both sides.
Oh God, yes. That is Howard's way of being.
Howard.
Pigs, yeah. Well, I guess that's Howard's way of being. Or you can call me DeLandre.
Is that Howard's last name?
Nope.
Is that his first name?
Howard's real name is DeLandre, but he likes everyone to just call him Howard. And Howard's more of a hugger, while DeLandre is not. But I've gotten some pretty interesting ways of casting my spells. Like my Sacred Flame is I'll blow a kiss at a character. And I forgot what the other thing was that I cast, but I showed my glorious ab muscle.
Oh yeah, I don't remember what the spell was cast either, but Cuki flexed his abs in order to summon whatever like physical magical representation of his abs were and projected them outward at an enemy. It was Cuki definitely adds a lot of flavor to the game, that's for sure.
Nice.
That's what I'm here for. I've listened to way too many bad D&D podcasts and way too many good D&D podcasts to want to do a D&D game without having all the flavor.
Well, everybody else is enjoying it in the party, so I'm not complaining.
Good, because I'm gonna do my best to draw it out of them. You'll have to tell me who's male and who's female in our party. Definitely thought Nato was a female.
Yeah, that's
And
what
Shaka
happens
Khan
when you're
was male.
trying to gender a bird.
I'm gonna keep gendering that bird female though, until she and/or he tells me so.
All right. Anything you were up to this week, Neil?
Just work, recording, and the usual. There's we're now in the finals for League of Legends competitive North American tournament, so that's actually happening today. So at some point I'll be jumping off to watch that much later today or a couple hours.
Weren't you going to invite me to a viewing party? We can sit on Discord and eat homemade nachos on both ends of the line. And you can tell me about all the things going on, and I can say, okay.
I'll shoutcast it. No.
Oh, yes. Neil does an Angry Joe impression for the entire run of the LCS, huh?
Angry Joe. Oh, yeah.
Have you heard
I'm
of Angry Joe?
Angry Joe?
Okay.
Yeah.
I will pass.
I watched some competitive Tetris recently, and I kind of asked myself, why, do you even need shoutcasters or, whatever you want to call them in competitive Tetris? Probably not.
Yes. How else will you know what kind of crazy strat they're using?
I mean, they don't even say anything insightful. It's just like, now Cookie's playing pretty passively right now. That might bite him later. Oh, and Tetris to Scott. And yeah, no, you know what? Cookie is usually very, Tetris to Cookie, very, careful in his play. Oh, Tetris to Scott. And it's like every other second they have to say Tetris to so-and-so, Tetris to such and such, triple for Scott.
What does Tetris mean?
Tetris means it's a full 5-bar clear.
4-bar.
4-bar clear, excuse me. Sorry.
What's 4-bar clear mean? Holy shit, I'm so unaware of the lingo in this.
So you know the one piece that's the line?
The health bar, yeah.
Pretty much. The health bar, if you drop it vertically and use the entire health bar to clear out your thing, it's called a Tetris.
Oh, wait. No, I'm still confused. I'm not going to worry about it.
You know Tetris, honey.
Yes. And
sweet. You know how they've got the different shapes?
Yeah, and when the long shape drops into the single spot, then that bottom panel disappears, right?
And if you drop the long one and you drop and clear all 4, it's called a Tetris. Only reason I know this is because I play Puyo Puyo Tetris every once in a while still.
Gotcha. Well, speaking of games you should be playing, Cookie, I think Neil and I tried to make a case earlier for you to play Oxenfree, and just in case you weren't going to, I went ahead and played it pretty much start to finish over the beginning of this weekend. So I put in that initial 20 minutes that I think I talked about. I guess the way that these recordings are going to be put together earlier in the podcast in the first half. And within our short break, I was able to finish the entire game in about another 5 hours. So I don't know if we're going to put this up as a Let's Play, but it could make for a really good one. And I don't want to spoil it either, but we should talk about it in the limited capacity we can, Neil, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it boils down to if this is something that, Cookie, if you want to play it on air, so to speak.
You guys are killing me. You're like, play it on air. Then you're like, we're gonna do a thing about it. Play it on air.
Well, it's something that we could do next weekend if you're interested in it. Because assuming you have like a day that you can spare for it, it's not a very long game. Although there is potential to want to replay it a second time. I'll say that much as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, let's do that. And also, I still haven't beat a way out, so I'll probably dip out for your spoilers conversation.
Already had it, so you're fine.
Oh, perfect. So is that a game that would justify a Let's Play?
So I'm doing one with Keith and John right now on that particular game. So you should just keep playing it with your brother. In fact, since you started it with your brother, you should keep playing it with him if possible. And if not, that'd be a good game to play with the wife.
Okay, because I started it with Lizzie too, but we've been kind of busy on other things.
Like watching anime.
And yeah, I guess, yeah, I have been doing that with her kind of. I haven't really been watching anime with her. I've just been binging all the anime by myself. Anyway, Oxenfree. Hit me with your best shot, Scott.
Yeah, remaining spoiler free.
Yeah, I can keep it spoiler free for the most part. Oxenfree is a beautifully designed game, both graphically and sonically, that has you play as the protagonist Alex as she goes to a place called Edwards Island for a evening partying on the beach with her closest friend Ren, her new stepbrother Jonas, whom she's just getting to know, and then 2 other friends of theirs that aren't exactly, I guess I shouldn't say friends of theirs, 2 other people that they know as they encounter some spooky circumstances dealing with radio waves and caves on the island. Essentially go ahead.
Oh, doesn't it kind of feel like it came out? It's weird because the way they tell the story, it feels modern and it feels fresh, but at the same time, it feels like you're watching like a 90s teen movie plot at the same time.
I mean, they don't have cell phones, I think, or they don't have cell phone service.
Right. I think that's the case.
It's probably cell phone service, but it definitely gives, and I think a lot of places that are, outside of like large cities and whatnot can often all of a sudden revert to having that simpler time feeling because, in all honesty, they don't have necessarily the infrastructure where a huge abundance of technology is around. In this case, for the island had some significance to World War II, which later becomes somewhat relevant to the story as you're using radio waves in order to like learn about locations on the island and solve puzzles. So the island is a it's sort of like a national park or a historic landmark in which it is preserved, and therefore there isn't the same amount of modernization that you would expect out of other locales. But the characters all feel, very, very modern in just how they're portrayed and how they interact. They feel very of our generation or time in how they talk through dialogue and interact and what they do. But it doesn't really matter what the time period is with this, I think. Like, as long as it's far enough forward in time from World War II that the island has had some time to kind of become closed off from, regular tourist visits and whatnot, that allows the narrative to progress in the direction that the writing intends. So it's just a really, really good game when it comes to pretty much... I can't think of any arguments or things that I really disliked about the game besides having difficulty moving around sometimes. Like, every once in a while I'd get stuck trying to move on a pathway. The art is very stylized. It's a little blurry almost, in a sense. Like, it's got a lot of lighting effects going on, probably on multiple layers for it. And so every once in a while when I'd be trying to follow a trail, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be hitting like up arrow on my keyboard or I guess this is WASD, so W or A. Like, I'm not sure. Am I supposed to be pushing further upward or left to get around this like sharp hairpin corner? But besides that, all the mechanics are really smooth and very simple. You really only have a couple of actions you can take, which is to interact with objects using spacebar or interact with situations. You have, I believe, my favorite way to use it was shift on my mouse to pull up your radio, and then you can use the scroll wheel to navigate the channels, and then control to pull up your map, which will give you very basic objectives and account of a particular type of bonus, I guess, bonus items that you can find and interact with. I don't know. How does that sound, Neil, for remaining spoiler-free so far?
Yeah, that sums it up.
I don't even want to spoil the premise of the game. Like, I went into it thinking it was going to be mostly about like the social interaction of these characters, and there was just going to be some like pretty intense dialogue between the exchange of them, and that would be it. But the actual motivator for the game and the adventure that is Oxenfree doesn't come for a little while into the game. Maybe for me, at least 30 minutes or so, if you're trying to soak up all the conversations that happened previously. Then it just goes on this wild ride.
Just like any good teenage coming of age movie, I think when the characters and when the viewer realizes that they're in way over their heads, I think that's like the notable point to the story.
Yeah, and it just sneaks up on you. Like, all of a sudden you realize that things are upside down from what you expected, and that's when the game really starts to get good. And it was drawing me in before that, even just with it having an excellent soundtrack and the radio mechanic being somewhat interesting. So you should play it, Cookie. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts about it once you've played it. And I'd love to talk in the spoilers territory once you're finished too, because I think there's a lot to talk about the end of this game once it's completed.
Sweet. Yep. I definitely want to play it. I just need to figure out how I'm going to play it.
Gotcha.
I.e. in the form of a Let's Play, or if I'm just going to take some time for myself.
Mm-hmm.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
So what have you been playing, Cookie?
Well, a little game that came out recently that I talked about a little bit ago. Tera came out on the PS4, and I have been just gobbling as much content of that up. It kind of replaced my Monster Hunter, sadly. I am on a PvP server. Unfortunately, Neil, the class that I'm using has to be a female.
Sure.
Unfortunately. Otherwise, I would have loved to have built a Monkey D. Luffy because the class is a brawler class. So, two-handed fist weapon is her class weapon type, and like one of the first moves she unlocks is pretty much the Gumma Gumma Gatling. So lots of punches. But yeah, unfortunately, she is not. She cannot be a male. She has to be a human and has to be female. So we tried. But I've really been enjoying the bejeebers out of that. I'm on a PvP server right now and not sure when they're going to unlock PvP, which is kind of weird. So like you can wander around the worlds and not have to worry about getting ganked by random people. So that's kind of nice, but also kind of defeats the purpose. I have also been playing Montana 5. Just a little bit of that, and every time I actually do turn that on, I'll be streaming it.
It also sounds like it's dissuaded you from coming to visit me for a while.
Yes, Montana is a very dangerous place, and I don't think I've got the for the same reason I will not go to the Pacific Northwest. I will not survive the long dark. I probably won't survive Montana 5 either. But I have really been enjoying like some crazy butt mechanics of this game. Like all of a sudden I hear, after progressing for so long in the story mode, I hear over the radio, they're like, hey, oh, and this character that I'm playing is also a female. But I hear, hey, it's sheriff hunting time. Don't kill her, just capture her. And I was like, psh. Everyone, I've been going after people, and I've been playing this game on easy, so I ain't got nothing to worry about. All of a sudden, I get hit with a bliss bullet, and the sides of my vision start going black. And eventually, I just kind of pass out, and I'm like, shit, I died. And then next thing you know, I wake up in the middle of this torture chamber, and it's like the starting point of the next mission. And I was like, oh, that's actually really cool. There's a wonderful video on YouTube that I'll have to find for you guys about this guy. He's like saying, what's their strat? Because he's on his way to a mission in an Apache attack helicopter. And he's like, oh, it's sheriff hunting season. Man, what's their strat gonna be? It'd be really weird if all of a sudden I'm like, look down and there's this guy with this bow and arrow and he shoots me, and next thing you know, I pass out and I'm in the thing. All of a sudden you hear this sniper bullet hit him, and then his vision goes black. And he's like, oh. But I find that to be like a really interesting way to start a mission. Like the first time it happens to you though, it's kind of terrifying. You're like, shit, I just died. Man, that was a really tough enemy I was fighting, apparently. But yeah, Montana 5, it's really pretty. I don't want to spoil anything really story-wise, but pretty much you're going out into the middle of the Midwest with white people, and white people are being white people, and they white people it up.
Scott, how do you feel about white peopling it up too often?
Like me personally, or just white people in general?
You personally.
I think I do okay on my end. I mean, I'm not going to proclaim to be like absolutely on point with how often I am white people, but I'd like to think that I keep it under control for the most part.
You don't commit genocide too often.
Holy shit. Okay, if we're talking about that level, I do an amazing job at like reeling it back.
You do a great job holding back the genocide.
Yeah. Those urges, they're tough, but I've found a way. My moral compass is very strong.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, that just seeing like watching this game and kind of having a vague idea about the impressions it's giving people about Montana. I don't know. I don't know actually how I feel about it really, because there are days where I'm out here and I'm like, this is closer to Far Cry 5 than I'd really appreciate. And other days it's like, no, it's really nothing like that. So
I mean, there aren't just random bear attacks?
There are, but they're very rare. They're super rare. You gotta like. That's the one nice thing about actually being in an environment that really has so much like human interaction with other animals. It's one of those things where there's a lot of information available to anybody. Like if you go to hike a trail and there are even bears that could be in the area, there's like essentially posters and pamphlets up about warning signs of bears and where bears have been last spotted and what to do if you encounter a bear, like all on the bulletin board before you even start. So pretty responsible about that. And actually I want to ask, like, what's the worst animal you've had to fight in that game? Because I know that there's honey badgers, I think, or wolverines, and there's skunks,
there
and
are
there's
skunks,
bears. Are moose in it? Because moose are mean motherfuckers.
There are moose, but the moose in this are, at least from the moose I've encountered. I actually have not encountered a moose. I've seen videos of moose. They seem to be pretty docile in this.
That's good. I mean, lucky for you, moose aren't actually so nice if you infringe on their space. But
no, a moose is one of the most dangerous animals known to God.
Yeah.
Just because of how weird they look and how people take them not so seriously. I found an Easter egg. Sweet.
You found an Easter egg in Far Cry, or you found an Easter egg in your home?
In my home. We had a drunk Easter egg hunt. So we would do a round of people grabbing Easter eggs with a little thing inside them to tell them to take like what kind of drink. And then they would hide the Easter eggs. So we're still locating Easter eggs. I just found one. Good spot. But yeah, no. So far, the most dangerous animal I've had to face is a bear. And the only reason it was the most dangerous animal I had to face is because I wasn't expecting it. Because I was in the middle of talking to like a bystander, like at the shop. And next thing you know, you hear a, "Oh no!" And then he's being murdered by a bear.
Yeah, they really sneak up on you with their, several hundred pounds of weight crunching leaves and twigs and their heavy, ragged breathing. They just, blend right in with the babbling brooks and the swaying trees.
And all the helicopters.
Yeah. Have you unlock air travel pretty early in the game?
Oh god, there's like helicopters and airplanes just everywhere. Just everywhere.
That's also not that far from reality. There's a guy who's been restoring an airplane in his front yard on one of our main streets. And I see the plane like get a little bit more restored or have another piece tacked onto it every couple of days. So that's a real aspect.
Nice. But yeah, I am actually thoroughly enjoying it. I had to download it on the main PlayStation 4, and I want to actually get Lizzie to start playing it so that way we can co-op it up, because I figure the more the merrier.
Just make sure that she has the necessary mobility equipment. I was watching a video of some guys who were climbing a mountain, and one of them didn't have the parachute or paraglider or whatever. So, and I don't think he could descend the mountain very easily. So he had to dive while the other player was gliding down, and then he respawned on top of the parachute of that player. So he was standing on top of it as they
Nice.
both floated down to the bottom of the mountain.
So what you're saying is no, make sure she doesn't have a parachute so that way we can recreate these beautiful moments.
Yeah, trap Lizzie on the mountaintop.
Nice. Besides Montana 5, which I'm thoroughly enjoying, and Tera on the PS4, which I'm also thoroughly enjoying, I've actually started playing PUBG lately. It recently released on Android and iPhone, I guess. And so I've kind of been pretty much just playing at least one round a night. It's full of scrubs, just full of scrubs. People haven't quite figured out how to like aim, strafe, and shoot at the same time yet. So I feel as if I've got a heads up on the community right now. I've had 3 chicken dinners and 2 losses so far.
That's pretty good.
And like I was like the first time I even got on there, I came in second because I still wasn't sure of what I was doing, but I averaged around 8 or 9 kills a game.
Getting spicy.
Yeah, it's full of scrubs. I love it.
Do you notice any cheaters?
Not that I've noticed, but I wouldn't know how to tell if there were cheaters besides like if someone had like a super shitty connection that was suspiciously shitty. But the ping and like the lag tends to not be that bad. I think most people are either on 3G or Wi-Fi. And I unfortunately have lost my Bluetooth controller that I actually have for a phone. So I do want to find that, pull it out, and try PUBG with that to see if that, makes everyone even scrubbier, because it's pretty much an Xbox 360 controller, but for a phone.
Nice.
That's what I've been doing all week.
So I've played one new game, or one game I can speak about to some degree since our last recording, and that would be Persona 3 Portable, and I'm playing that on the Vita, or the PlayStation TV specifically. I had heard in the past from a few different people that this game was more or less just a glorified visual novel, and that definitely rings true a lot, unlike Persona 4 Golden, where the Vita at that point is more than capable of recreating a PlayStation 2 game. Persona 3 Portable on the PSP instead, they really did have to cut some corners to make the game like feasible in that format. Like, you no longer have free access or reign over moving around in environments. Instead, the environments and maps are basically set out to be kind of like large still images that you navigate around with the cursor, and using basic menu options to change what location in the city you're in. But the dungeons are a little more traditional to the original game. And maybe the other thing that kind of makes me sad that it's not in some different format is that most of the cutscenes, like the animated cutscenes, have been replaced with still image with narration. And then you also have all of the other cutscenes have been turned into I guess you could say like scripted events that happen within the battle screen, if you will. So it uses like the battle sprites and so forth. Although I guess I can't really say it hurts the experience all that much unless this would be the first time you'd play the game, or any version of Persona 3. I'm playing with the female protagonist because I've heard that she's a lot more likable and maybe a little easier to connect to than the male protagonist. And it's kind of refreshing having a character that seems like a little more social and outgoing compared to like the very quiet, reserved Makoto, I guess, would be the male character. I think that's really all I have to say about that game for now. Not the best way to play Persona 3, but it's an interesting take for anyone that's played the original before. As for news, we talked a little bit about some things that happened last week. This week, though, or for this portion of the episode, I did want to bring up the Switch update, or word about the Switch update, basically bricking systems that have been using third-party docks and chargers. Cookie, you brought this to our attention before. Have you read any follow-ups on this?
I have not. I barely remember bringing it up to your attention. I was kind of dying when I did. I think I vaguely read slow news week, and I was like, yeah, I don't see anything on the news. Oh, switches are breaking. Here's an article. I'll send it to him. Good night. But no, I have not. I do see here that they did a 5.0.1 update recently. But I don't think, from the last time I read the article, it sounded like Nintendo wasn't going to do shit about this bricking consoles thing. Because they're like, hey, use official Nintendo things. We can't test for everything, guys. Even though it's Nyko, a big third-party company that the Switches are bricking for. But did you have an update for that?
Yeah, basically, you said the big thing, which is Nintendo was more or less saying don't buy third-party docks. Seems kind of
cop-outy.
Yeah, but I think a lot of it's coming from the fact that yes, there's a reason why you can't use just regular cables into regular wall warts to charge the Switch, because it's pulling a different voltage than most devices using a USB-C connector. But I don't know. I'm really hoping that Nintendo ends up making a new dock or a solution for people that don't want to have it in that confined dock that they have, the official dock. Granted, I've never had an issue with the Switch overheating, but I've heard that has been a thing for many players and people that probably play their Switch in far longer intervals than I have, which, it's not that unrealistic to imagine me doing that, because I've played my PlayStation 4 at 7-8 hour intervals in the past. Yeah. So just a PSA out there, if you have considered, or if you're currently using third-party docks, you may want to switch back to your original, and you may even want to be careful about using USB-C connectors or extensions to get it outside of the dock itself, because I've read posts reporting that even those solutions have been bricking their systems too.
Oh, I did not know that, but yeah, that's actually really good to know. In other news, and more exciting, less bricky news, Call of Duty World War II is getting an update that's coming out on Tuesday alongside the new DLC release that's pretty much changing the game. Ooh, excuse me. I had to sneeze there. Basically, they're reworking all of the divisions, and a bunch of basic trainings are also being reworked, so that's going to be your perk system. And they're also reworking how a lot of the guns work. So before, say if you're using the infantry division, any kind of rifle that you would use, you got a bayonet with, but only for the infantry division. Or I guess the more common use thing is you had to be using the airborne division, the running gun division, in order to get silencers on your SMGs, and SMGs actually were the only thing that had silencers. Now all SMGs and all pistols will have the silencer option for an attachment. All LMGs are going to have bipod. If you're using a sniper, you have the ability to hold your breath. You don't need to be using that specific division skill. There's a lot that's changed. So on Tuesday, we are getting Call of Duty World War II 2.0, I guess, is how I'm kind of reading it, how crazy the changes are going to be of this game. I'll have more on that, on Tuesday after I guess next week when the actual event is out and I've had a chance to play a little bit. I'm excited about some of the changes, not so excited about some of the changes, but
You're
Take good
probably
with bad.
most upset about the Card 98K and M1903 quick scoping nerf.
Oh God, why did they have to nerf the quick scoping? Don't they know that quick scoping is life?
I'm reading these, and I honestly don't know what ADS stands for as a
Aim down
acronym.
sight.
Aim down sight. Oh, okay. Yeah, they're doing a lot with the aim down sight adjustments on pretty much every category of gun. Then either buffing or nerfing.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be kind of crazy. That's all I really cared about enough to even mention news-wise.
And since we're piggybacking this off of our first recording last week, maybe that's a good point to call it quits on this episode of Fancy Ramen. Do you, I guess rather before we go, if you have comments, questions, or concerns, you can write into podcast@fancyramen.com.
That's you, Scott.
Oh, I get the rest of this. Okay, cool. Wait, what's left? Oh my gosh. Please tell a friend about it. Oh, did we do? We haven't done.
Like,
Luckily,
subscribe,
you
or
can-
do
yeah,
whatever
you can-
it is that you do.
You can edit all of this. Yeah, like, subscribe, leave us a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, wherever you find us. But most importantly, please share with a friend how abysmally bad I messed up this last part of the podcast, and make sure they listen through the whole thing. So that way,
Because the suspense, the build-up makes
exactly.
it all worth it.
Yeah, just tell them that there's an event that they can't miss in it, and hopefully within that period of time, they'll get hooked on the podcast and they'll become a regular listener. And if not, just try again later. Just keep recommending it. So we appreciate any word of mouth that gets spread about the podcast.
Spreading mouths and words.
I'm Neil.
podcast.
I'm
I'm
Scott,
Cookie. Oh, I'm Cookie. Hi.
and I'm out of here.
Later.